So in this episode we'll talk about roaming and ganking. So as a mid laner, roaming and ganking is a very big part of your role. Like some games you might not need to gank or roam because of your hero you're playing or the matchup you're facing. Like you wanna stay on the lane and dominate the enemy mid laner. But some games it's very crucial. Like say you're playing Tiny, you are having a rough lane because the Tiny is not the greatest laner, and the best thing you can do for your team is help the other lanes and gank them. Because when you gank the enemies, like say you're ganking their carry and say it's a Lycan, the Lycan obviously is a very timing dependent hero. Like he needs his Necro Book, and once he gets the Necro Book, he farms super fast. He can offer a lot for your team fight with the Lycan ulti and the Necro Book. But say you delay the timing by killing him twice, suddenly he gets Dominator, the Necro 2-3 minutes later, and then suddenly the hero is very weak and you might think like, wow, this hero is the worst hero in the game. But if you don't do anything, it's like, well, this hero is the best hero in the game, you cannot beat it. But then just because you can't kill him once or twice, you end up making the hero very mediocre. So you always have to think about these things. As a mid laner, is it worth it for me to gank? Should I stay on the lane? If I'm dominating my lane, should I leave this lane and help others? Or should I just keep dominating the enemy mid laner? If I'm losing my lane, should I still stay on the lane? Or should I try to do something else that might be better? And the answer probably is yes, you should leave the lane if you're losing it and start playing the map instead of trying to make things happen in the mid lane when you cannot if you have a losing lane. So things like this you need to take into considerations when you're ganking. Like usually when you gank, the mid lane is going to be open, there's going to be creeps dying without nobody getting the XP or gold, so you're losing a lot of resources. So you have to make sure the ganks are successful or they can backfire really hard. So before you start ganking, you always have to evaluate the risk and the reward. So say I'm playing Invoker, I'm dominating my lane against Ember. I'm 6, level 5 minutes in, I'm level 6. And I have boots, null talisman, something like that, 1 place of attack. And the Ember is just suffering because he cannot jungle with the hero and he's not having a good time in the mid lane. So if you think about this situation, like you can already see that, okay, I'm dominating my lane. He is not getting much the Ember, and Ember probably needs to get a good laning stage because otherwise the hero falls off. It's hard for him to come back, and Ember is an early game hero, so if he has a slow early game, it's very hard for Ember to have an impact on the game. So here you can already see that the reasons for me to stay in the lane are very big. For me to keep dominating the lane and I'm getting free farm, it's a very good reason to stay. If you start roaming and ganking, first of all, Ember gets free farm, you lose on the farm, probably you can get a kill or two somewhere, but they might not end up being not worth it. Even though you get kills, it might be still bad for your team because you fall behind on farm, Ember gets a lot while you're ganking, so things like this you have to take into consideration when you gank. So when you're playing a lane, and if you're winning the lane, most of the time the enemy mid laner starts ganking or roaming around the map and making chaos. So usually what you can do as a mid laner is what you do is that you don't react to what he does, let him do his thing, and you just inform to your teammates that, yo, this guy, he cannot lane, he's gonna look to rotate and gank. Like what he wants to do is he wants to make us react to what he's doing. So the worst thing you can do as when you're winning the lane is to TP there and react to what he's doing, and that's exactly what he wants. Then he can fall back to mid and you're stuck somewhere else. So what you can do is you create your own pressure. You either start pushing the mid tower, which is very high pressure play because this mid tower is very important in the game. So starting to hit the mid tower is much more pressure than trying to react to what they're doing. And so you always have to be mindful of what is the best thing I can do right now for the team. Like, is it reacting to this gank or is it creating my own pressure? And yeah, if you win the lane, most of the time it's about creating your own pressure instead of answering theirs. As a mid laner nowadays, wards are free. You don't even have to communicate to your supports to give you wards. You can just buy them yourself. And usually around the night time, your first wards are gonna expire. So you have to prepare to put new wards down. And if the enemy is like a hero that roams around and stuff, then it's very good to have rune wards. These wards usually scout their movement. They play heavily around the rune timings. They need to get the rune to make their gank successful. So getting these rune wards can be very helpful. You can see, he's going top. Just communicate to your team. He's going top with DD rune. Be careful. And if you negate that play just by placing the ward, his game is ruined if he doesn't make it happen. So placing the wards, preparing for the gank, like placing these wards between the lanes so you can see their rotations. So deciding where you gank is, there's a couple of things you have to think about this. First of all, you look at the heroes that you can actually kill, and that's the first step. If you can kill anywhere, then that's good. Then you start thinking about what lane needs help. Is it that our safe lane carry Spectre is having a hard time, he cannot farm because there's a Beastmaster and Grimstroke who are like keep killing him or harassing him, he cannot enter the lane. Then yeah, probably the best play is to help your safe laner. That's probably the main priority. Get him a decent game, get him back to the game. Usually you look at the heroes that are suffering. Like if you're having a good game on a Juggernaut carry, probably you don't want to go there and just like they're already winning the lane, don't go there. Just look at the lane that needs help and look at what the enemy's win condition is. If they have, say, the Lycan again, and you're unsure which lane to gank, like which one is better, then you should think about what's their win condition. What is that they need to get online in the game? So usually when they have Lycan, it's about the Lycan timings. They have the Necro timing and then later AC timings and stuff like that. So yeah, you have to think about that, and yeah, in that case probably it's the best to gank the Lycan and slow his game down. Yeah, ganking their off lane is taking away pressure from your safe laner so he gets space to farm, but then again if you gank their safe laner then you put the pressure on them so they have to start reacting. So in that way, like most times probably better to gank their safe laner because of that they have to start reacting, so maybe their support from bottom will TP top. Then suddenly the bottom lane is already good again, also because of that. So in that sense you help both lanes by just ganking their safe laner. So yeah, it can definitely work like that, but some games they have huge pressure bottom, let's say on the off lane, let's say they have like Beastmaster and some other support that are gonna pressure your tower, and then your carry Spectre is has to abandon the lane completely. Then yeah, you have to really balance the game out for your Spectre and give him a decent game so he can come back to the game. So yeah, I mean, I think the main thing that ganking and roaming does for your team is that you're basically taking resources from them because you don't let them get your creeps. It gives your carrier offlaner the chance to get the creeps that they're denying while also killing the enemy. So it's like you get so much value out of the ganking if you make it successful. So that's why most games it's very important as a mid laner to gank and roam. Like even sometimes you see me running as a tiny 10 minutes in, like 30 last hits only, like why is he so low on last hits? Because I'm running around and making space for my team and taking it away from them. So that's something people forget, that you're actually ruining their game while you are helping your team. So you get a lot out of it. I mean, if all their lanes are winning, usually what happens is they start ganking. That's the only way they can get back into the game. If they don't do that, you should be very happy with just staying in your lanes and keep winning all the lanes. Then ganking and roaming can only do harm for your team, because then you give them a one free lane that they can farm on. So always when you're winning all the lanes, which should usually never happen, you should never win all 3 lanes, because the way drafting works is that they get to counter pick something, you get to counter pick something else. So if that happens, you have to start preparing for their ganks. You have to start preparing defensive wards, that like rotation wards on the river so you can see when they start missing, and once they do that, you prepare with your supports to have TPs ready, play defensive while they're missing, things like that. But when you're winning all the lanes, you should not gank or roam.